Good evening and welcome to ELOSOFUMARTAKES. This is our 46th take. Yes, we're actually doing it tonight despite our technical difficulties. I'm your host, Bear Duplessis, as always, and I am so thankful and so glad to be bringing this take to you tonight. We have a very special guest. And again, want to apologize for the late start. Thank you so much for all your patience, guys, as you all were tuning in. We have a fantastic guest tonight. The guy has been compared to everyone from Ed McMahon to Mr. Wonderful. He is one of the best guys in this industry, and now he's local to me here in Texas. I'm so excited to welcome in our guest from Kristoff Cigars, Mr. Jarrid Trudeau. Jarrid, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. Happy to be here.
Oh, it's absolutely fantastic. Again, they can't thank you enough for joining us tonight. It's been a fantastic weekend. How's your weekend been?
It's been good, man. I'm happy to be home. I just left a like 9 or 10 day straight shot on the road with 3 different reps and 3 different territories. So I'm happy to be home and my girlfriend and my dog in my own bed for a little bit and back at it again.
Fantastic, man. The Red Sox won tonight and have been winning this weekend, so that was good. But everything else went to crap for both of us this weekend.
Yeah, no shit, man. It's tough to see the Patriots lose like that, especially to a team that we've absolutely dominated 100% of the time. So this is the first time we've ever lost to them in the regular season. To the Jaguars. Yep.
First wow.
Time. Yep. So it's a tough look. Tough look. I'm sure Vegas is pretty unhappy with it, and so am I. But
I'm sure Belichick was breaking things at some point. So
yeah, I can't imagine he took it particularly well.
Oh goodness, but it's absolutely fantastic to have you back home and have you on the show, giving us some more of your time, considering how much time you've put in on the job, and I guess a thank you to your dog and girlfriend as well, obviously.
I'll be sure to pass that along. Yeah, I'm sure they'll like that.
So just a quick reset, if you guys are just joining us again, a little bit late start, we do apologize. Mr. Jarrid Trudeau of Kristoff Cigars is joining us here for our 46th take. We're live from the Casa Cueva studios of Euless, Texas. Of course, I'm Bear Duplessis, your host, as always. Our 46th take on ELOSOFUMARTAKES. It's again, Jarrid, I can't thank you enough for joining us tonight. So I want to kick things off. First of all, I want to just say how incredible it is that you are totally bought into Kristoff. It is part of your identity. You're Kristoff Jarrid on Facebook. You're Kristoff Jarrid on other social media outlets. But not only are you completely bought in, you're so bought in, you don't want anyone to know anything about you other than Kristoff Cigars. Because I had a hell of a time finding a picture of your face, man.
Yeah, I'm one of those guys that if I didn't need social media for my job, I probably wouldn't have it. I like doing my job and getting things done. And up until very recently, when I had potentially the worst advertisement in history, I was kind of always a behind the scenes guy. And I traveled and worked with the sales reps and focused on growing the business and scaling the business responsibly. But Glenn and I decided we would do a photo shoot together in a couple of the cigar magazines, or basically all of them. And that went very poorly for me, social media wise, in that all of my friends, who nearly all of them are in worse shape and are more unattractive than I, nearly all of them had an opinion about what appeared to be 17,000 chins on this particular advertisement. So needless to say, that's not going to be happening again in the near future.
You could always bring out the beard, dude. It hides things tremendously.
I gotta imagine it would.
It's fantastic. You should really think about doing. Winter's coming. It is Texas, mind you.
Winter is coming.
It's a good look, man, and it's in style right now. So it's definitely fantastic. But that is pretty cool. It's interesting you did bring it up. I thought that was really fantastic that you were included in that group photo for that advertising with Glenn. I think that I mean, if anything else, I mean, let's make lemonade out of your friends can bullshit you all they want. But I mean, that is the founder of the company showing some absolute faith in you by having you on his right-hand side in those advertising photos. I mean, that had to be pretty awesome, right?
Well, it's cool because it for me at least, I do like kind of doing my job in the background and making sure my reps are taken care of and making sure they have what they need to be successful on the road. I think it's cool to get that nod. I mean, at the end of the day, just kind of like empirically, it's cool as shit to be in something like that, until it's not, which all my friends quickly reminded me. It's very easy to get caught up in it until you get humbled by literally everyone you've ever met in your life on the thing. So it was cool. And I mean, the other cool thing is Glenn and I, Glenn did this by himself for a very, very long time with independent sales reps and with brokers. And I was his first in-house sales rep. So to see where we started and, 5 years later, where we are now and the way that the business is scaled, it's really cool to see it all come together,
Yeah, that absolutely has to be thrill. And that's something that I remember too, is the fact that you guys did use brokers before, and now it's kind of it's scaled to a point where you can do that. And I think that speaks to the brand, and I think that speaks to the people that Glenn has brought in. We keep referring to Glenn by his first name basis. We assume that everyone knows who Glenn Case is, and if you aren't, you've been living under a rock. The founder of Kristoff Cigars. Something that the question I would have if he had been here tonight. One thing that I would have brought up, I love the fact that he named the brand after his son. I love how Alan Rubin did that with Alec Bradley as well. I think it's just such a fabulous tribute. As a proud father myself, I've often thought of how something that I could do that would honor my son in a similar regard, and it's pretty cool that he's done that, and it's built and done so well over the years.
Yeah, no, it's cool. And Christopher is awesome, by the way. Glenn's son, Christopher, he's awesome. He's down in Florida going to get his doctorate somewhere, and he's doing great, man. He's a smart kid. I really like him. He's a good namesake.
I was going to say that, when he first started this, the guy was like, in first grade, and now, he's going to be a PhD or whatever.
Yeah, he's going to be more successful than all of us.
It seems like that. But the foundation of Kristoff Cigars, and then, young Christopher Case is going on and changing the world, that's got to be a real thrill for Glenn. So that's fantastic. But let's talk about you a little bit here. One of the things I wanted to know, and interesting stories all around, is the fact that your background is like, how does one person, let's just ask the question, how does one person get from Target to the premium cigar industry? How does that work?
Ass backwards, man. That's how it does. It's interesting because
we all have to start somewhere. So I get you.
It was right place, right time, and it was Glenn and I kind of immediately hitting off. So basically, what I'll tell you, the quick version of what happened, which is I was a cigar smoker. I was executive for Target, and I was a cigar smoker. And Glenn and I met at a cigar event in Rhode Island. And my dad had invited me to this cigar dinner, and we did it. And there were probably 120 guys at this particular event for the Humidor Smoke Shop in Rhode Island. And they've been around for a million years and always do these good cigar dinners. So I went to this thing with my dad, and he was like, this guy, Glenn Case, is going to be there, the owner of the company, and it's going to be a cool thing. I'm like, all right, whatever. So I go, and basically what ended up happening was there were 120 people there, and Glenn got up and started doing cigar trivia. And so basically for every question he asked, you got a cigar if you got the answer right. Keep in mind, there are 120 people in the building that are trying to do this,
Stuff. Yeah.
Well, it just so happens like the day before the event, I was sitting in the cigar lounge and I read an article in Cigar Journal or something like that on Kristoff cigars and mostly on Glenn. So there's 120 guys there. I'm the only one that studied, So I get out there and I'm like, Glenn asked probably 11, 12 questions. And of those, I probably got 10 of them right? So Glenn, it comes up to me at the end and he's like, brother, how do you know all this stuff? And I'm like, I don't know, I'm not going to tell him that I'm the only one who studied at this thing. So I'm like, so later on in the event, we have a few more cocktails. Glenn starts walking around and he's smoking a box press cigar, which was the cigar called the Galerones Intensivo that we used to sell, but is now discontinued. And so I knew Kristoff had never made a box press cigar before, just from being a smoker, being out in the community. And so it just so happens as the time, and he's going from table to table, thanking everybody for coming to the event. And it just so happens that when he gets to my table, it burns up to the label. So he takes the label off, throws it in my ashtray, thanks us for coming, walks away. Well, he gets up after another couple cocktails, is like, I'll give anybody 5 cigars if they know the name of my new line. And I'm like, well, shit, I got the label in my ashtray, right? It's like, I know they don't make that cigar. I've never seen it before. So I get up there, I grab the label, I read it. It says Galarrones Intensivo. I use my lighter and light it on fire and destroy the evidence. And I raise my hand and I'm like, that's the Galarrones series. And he's like, brother, how did you know that? Like, he's like, I'm the only one in the room that knows the answer to that. And I'm like, well, you know, I'm just real sensitive to the industry, blah, blah, blah. I totally bullshit.
Oh, man.
And so he's like, would you ever want a job? And I'm like, sure, I'll listen to you. And he was like, what do you do now? And I'm like, oh, I work for Target. And he's thinking I'm like bagging groceries and stuff at this time. He doesn't know that I'm a senior manager for them. And so he's like,
he doesn't know you make a living.
Yeah, exactly. And so he's like, make a resume. Like, I don't already have a resume. And he's like, send it to me. And so on Monday, I sent him my resume. He emails me back like 20 minutes later. He's like, brother, you don't work for Target. You don't work at Target. You work for Target. I said, that's what I said. And he's like, I can't afford you. And I'm like, absolutely not. And he's like, well, maybe in a couple of years. And I had written down my name and phone number and my email on the back of one of his business cards, gave it to him. I thought I was never going to hear from him again. And we talked every couple months for like 2 years, until finally one day he called me and he was like, hey, Jarrid, I think I want to do this. Like, I think I'm ready to start scaling the business and go in-house with my sales reps. And he's like, I want you to be the first in-house sales rep. And if you can show me that in-house sales works, we'll hire and train and scale the business, and you'll be my guy to run the company. And I was like, for some reason, in the interim, I had gotten headhunted to Bed Bath & Beyond. So I went to Bed Bath & Beyond.
Oh, okay.
All
right.
Yep. And so I was a senior planner for them. And then I actually, the day after Glenn gave me my offer to do this, and we had no idea what we were doing. Like I said, I was the first in-house sales rep. He had all independent reps. We had zero sales infrastructure at this time. And so when we were going through the offer, we were like literally writing it for me together. He was like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll do that. And like we didn't have we didn't pay for gas. We didn't like none of the stuff that like now we're like, oh yeah, we should have done that. Like none of that existed at the time. Like literally one time we were like, it's a real pain in the ass for me to like keep booking these hotels and stuff on my credit card and then waiting for the reimbursement. Why don't you just get a company card and then you can keep the points? And he was like, oh, that's a really good idea. And I was like, yeah. And so like we figured this whole infrastructure out sort of at the same time, because he didn't know how to have an in-house sales rep and I didn't know how to be an in-house sales rep. I had no sales experience. I was a retail executive. And so when I got to his office after so anyways, back to the Bed Bath & Beyond thing. So the day after he gave me the offer, I went into my office at like 4 o'clock in the morning, and the vice president of Bed Bath & Beyond was in my office at like 4 in the morning. And I'm like, Danny, what are you doing? And he was like, I want you to go to Foxborough, which is Patriot Place, which is the regional headquarters. And I said, and I want to see what you can do. And I was like, at that regional headquarters. And I was like, damn. All right. So I got promoted the day after I accepted a job for another company. And so I went back to Glenn and I'm like, hey man, like I just got promoted today. And I said, I know it's not your problem. I'm like, but I've got a lot to think about. Like I got to talk to my family and I got to figure this out. And he was like, all right, no problem, man. Do your thing. And, I thought about it for like 1 second and I was like, you know what, no matter what I do or how successful I am in this retail space, and, we had stock options and, we're Fortune 80 company, And so I was like, no matter how successful I am in this retail space, There will always be a day that I say, what if I did that cigar thing? And that was, like I said, probably 5 years ago. And so my market, I started as their first sales rep, and my market paid for the next one, which paid for the next one, which paid for the next one, until we were fully in-house across the country. And I was able to step away and manage the business full time. So that's, all of my career with Kristoff in 5 minutes.
That's pretty, I mean, that's pretty fantastic, man. Okay, in that moment, if we could focus on that 1 second. So like, what was it that was so captivating about the industry that just had the hooks in you that, you were just going to be kicking yourself if you hadn't given this a shot?
For me, it was always, because I used to work anywhere between 2 and 4 in the morning. I would get to my office, and then I would work all day, whatever. And I'd get out of work at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I would leave my office a lot of times. Sometimes it was a lot later, but a lot of times that was it, because I got into the office really early. And if I got out and I texted you at 1 o'clock and I'd be like, hey, Barry, you want to go play golf? You'd be like, dude, I haven't even had lunch yet. All I could do when I got out of work was I would go to the cigar lounge and I would try to relax for a little bit before. And that was kind of like just my routine, And so it just became a product that really symbolized for me, shit's going pretty good right now. It's an expensive product. I'm enjoying myself. I said, and I'm relaxing. And it was one of the few times when I was really clear in my headspace, and you could really forget all the other stuff that was going on. And then also, probably more important for me, because if you ask any of my guys, I love cigars. I smoke everything that I can find. I smoke samples from other sales reps. I'm interested in the product, but I'm a business person, and I'm at my core, I'm a passionate business person. So probably even more exciting for me, and it could have been selling absolutely anything. More exciting for me was the place that the company was at the time that I took the offer. I had an opportunity to really, put up or shut up, right?
Right.
I could either show Glenn that in-house sales works, and then we would be able to scale the business and I would have a future, or I would have just thrown away, my career and my best earning years as a young guy on a venture that just wasn't going anywhere. So I could have shit my pants in a year and been back to square one and had to go apply for jobs, or I could have really built a good career for myself and for the other people that work for the company, and for Glenn and his family. And I think for me, probably the more powerful motivator was the business side. And it's the product first, because the product always has to stand on its own. But for me, it was really being able to be instrumental in the way that the business developed. That was really important for me.
I think it's really interesting when I hear these kind of random stories about how people get into the industry, because, I was told for the longest time that in order to get in the industry, you had to work your way in, and you had to work your way up, and that's still true, so to speak, and stuff. But there's these few stories and these few people where it's kind of just like magic happened. And here's one. Miguel Chodell from Crown Heads is another, where he actually told the Oz Jenner family, "Hey, I'm going to work for you one day, just so you know."
Mm-hmm.
And, at the time they probably just thought he was some dumb teenager. He was 18-year-old kid. And then he ends up working for him, and a couple decades in the industry now. And so it's one of those fantastic things. And that's what I love about this industry, is that the people that it brings together, the diverse background of people that it really brings together, and the stories. And that's what I was telling you before the show, is I'm really big into journeys. And that's what I really like, hearing where people come from and what they, how they got here and how they found success in the industry, is something really, really unique. And so that's why I really like talking about it so much. But something else I wanted to touch on, and like you said, you had huge success in the retail sector, and now you've helped scale this business for Glenn, and Kristoff is just doing gangbusters with reps in all these territories, gone and completely in-house. But the thing that I really enjoyed is I heard you actually say this in the booth at this year's IPCPR, and I read it, and I can't remember the publication, forgive me. And I read it in a publication. Then I also heard an interview where you were talking about it. And I'm a son of a sales guy. I still work in sales, virtually 24/7 and everything. But you had a really, really awesome philosophy when it came to sales. And so it's very simple, but it's also, it brings about a good point. So the first Trudeauism, can we call it that?
If you want, yeah. I think it's going to make it less powerful, but if you can go ahead.
Is show up.
Yeah.
And so it's show up, and okay. I know that you told me the third one. Then I got stuck. What's the second one? The second one is
it's show up. It's don't be a dick, and then it's ask for something.
Ask for something. Okay.
Those are
show up. Don't.
Yeah, show up. Don't be a dick, and ask for something.
Okay. Did someone teach you that, or did it just bullshit out one day, or like how did this come about? Because I've heard it repeated a couple of times.
So it was one of those things where it's like, so growing up, I from a very, very blue collar family, and two brothers. My parents were high school sweethearts. Me and my two brothers were born the day before my first birthday. So when we grew up, we weren't, going to Disneyland every year or something like that. We would take vacations from, to Connecticut and shit like that, And so, but my dad, as a really hardworking guy, he started as a machinist in South Providence and then worked his way up to now he's a salaried manager, operations manager for a $1 billion privately held company.
Still working.
Still working. Yep. And he's done really well for himself in a business where a lot of his peers are, college degrees and stuff like that. I mean, this guy, worked his ass off for it. And my dad always told me when we were growing up that you can teach sales, you can teach business, you can teach absolutely everything, but you cannot teach, as hard as you try, somebody to give a shit. And I always took that to heart. So in my entire, education and everything, and then in my professional career, I've always taken that give a shit mentality to heart. Like that's something you can't teach, and you find the right people and give them the tools they need to execute. So for me, it was never really something that nobody really taught me those things. It was probably me drunkenly bullshitting about what you need to do to be successful in the cigar business, but I really think that
it's so true though. It's so true.
Yep. Yeah. It's so true. And if you show up, you're better than 80% of your peers. If you aren't a dick, you're better than 80% of your peers. And being a dick doesn't just mean, showing up and being a jerk to somebody. It means not adding value for your customer. It means not showing up regularly enough, or showing up at the wrong times, or not calling ahead and making appointments, or it could be when you go into the humidor, you're not selling cigars, or you're taking up too much of the customer's time. Be a dick. You can be a dick in a lot of ways in business. Right?
Bully the retailer for not bringing in product, or whatever, anything.
Or be one of those reps that says, "Hey, it's the end of the month, blah blah blah. I really need help making my number." Like that's weak. All of that is weak selling, and that's an expectation that I would never set for my sales reps, and never hold them accountable to that kind of stuff. And then ask for something. Again, that sounds overly salesy when it's said out of context, but honestly, how many sales reps, and you work in retail, how many sales reps walk in there and they go, "Oh, hey Bear, how you doing? Here's a cigar." And then they breathe up your air and flush your toilet and charge their phone and drink your water, and never ask you, "Hey, how's business going?" Or how do you think we can sell some more cigars? Or, "Hey, do you need anything?" Or, "Hey, can I help you straighten out the humidor? I noticed some of my boxes are all messed up." Or whatever. How many times do sales reps come in and they do nothing but detract from your ability to do your job and add zero value? And it happens again and again and again and again. And that's something that I try very hard to nip in the bud when I'm training a new sales rep or onboarding a new sales rep, regardless of if they have industry experience or not. It's every time you walk into an account, every time, it's your job to add value. And does it happen 100% of the time? I don't know. I don't have body cams on all my sales reps, but I would like to think that more often than not, my sales reps do what they can to try to add value, and I'm confident in my team and their ability to do that. But those three things, I think really contribute to a success in the cigar business, or a success in any sales position.
Yeah, I was going to say the give a shit thing is something that I've actually had that conversation several times over various to varying degrees with in different arenas, over the last few months, and that's something like someone asked me one time, they're like, well, what, why do this? Why take the extra step, or why do something on this? And I was like, because I give a shit. Right. It just seems like the question seems so asinine that the answer, quite frankly, to keep on subject here, made me sound like a dick, because I was just like, come on, because I give a shit. Like, why don't you? That was kind of the context of the conversation, and it absolutely 100% works when you say, and you're talking about not asking for the sale. You're talking about asking if they can do something, asking to be of service, to add value to the product that they've already invested in, or hopefully will invest in. Right. Absolutely. And so that's,
or even totally independently of our product line, right? Like if you're talking to a retailer and your job as a salesperson is to be a strategic partner. That's like anytime you see me check in or talk about any of my travel on social media, it's always going to visit our friends and retail partners in this market and that market, because I really see my retailers as partners. And a lot of the times, a lot of the conversations that I end up getting into with retailers, many times they don't have anything to do with Kristoff. It's, hey, what kind of business problems are you dealing with right now? And maybe I'm only in 1,000 cigar shops a year across the United States. Maybe I can help you with them. And all of that stuff, the rising tide kind of effect, right? Like all of that stuff contributes to their ability to be a better buyer of my product, a better seller of my product, and of everybody else's, So I think if you'd be amazed at how much you can get done when you don't give a shit who gets the credit, right? Like I don't go in there and try to shove all this, Kristoff gospel down everybody's throat. A lot of time you're talking to a small business person, and I want to know what you're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. And if I can add value for that, that's what I want to do, because it's going to help me and our relationship and our product,
I think there are a couple of we are very fortunate in our area. We have incredible reps, like across the board. Just reps and brokers are just fantastic in this area. But I have friends in all the parts of the country that aren't so as fortunate as me, and it's interesting to hear the huge difference and in that kind of aspect. And one of the things that I do find that's interesting is a lot of the philosophies that you have, a lot of the reps in our area do incredibly well. Adding value, having that conversation about more than just their product, being humble enough in their place in the market too, which is something, as a sales guy, it's all about braggadocio, right? It's all about, who can talk the bigger game sometimes, and or at least having that confidence level, going into a sale, knowing that it's already done. Mm-hmm. and then when you lose it, you shake it off and you go on to the next one. It's the name of the game, right?
Yeah.
But there are several people that I know that work in this industry that have a sense of self enough to where they fit in where their place is in the humidor, and wanting to still add value even though they're not in that upper echelon, still speaks to how incredible they are at their job. So I totally understand what you're getting from is it's not just about the brand that you're representing. It's about the industry that you're a part of and how everyone can help each other, and seemingly does. It really is fantastic that way.
Yeah, no, I agree. And Texas does. Of all the markets that I've been in, Texas has some incredible sales reps out here. It really is a good crew. There's no antagonism or anything like that. I mean, it's the sales reps I've met, I've been very impressed with out here. So
you've been out here for how long now?
January. My girlfriend and I moved here in January.
All right, fantastic. Well, hopefully Texas has been good to you. It's been good to me for the last 30 plus years. So certainly over the just within the first year, I'm sure it's done you well. So that's fantastic. Nice. But the last thing I wanted to touch on, so Kristoff's doing some really interesting new things. They brought back a cigar called the Vengeance, which Holy crap. I just absolutely love, can't get enough of that cigar. It's fantastic. And it is everything that a full bodied cigar wants to be when it wants to be a medium body, and it's everything a medium bodied cigar wants to be if it wants to be full bodied. I don't know. As confusing as that sounds, it
No,
is
I know
the
what you mean.
perfect blend for that medium to full bodied smoker to satisfy the full bodied guy and to not to scare away the medium bodied smoker. It's fantastic.
Yeah, that cigar has been doing incredible for us right now. It's a really, really strong smoke.
What went into the decision to bring that back in the form and fashion that it was?
Well, it's something that we've talked about for a long time. In that was a throwback to our original release. Like that was 14 years ago. The idea that was kind of what started it all. And that cigar originally, I don't know if anybody's ever told you the original Vengeance story. That cigar, when we first released it, we couldn't give it away. I mean, it was terrible. Cigar Aficionado gave it like an 88, which is like 3 middle fingers from them. And then we just never did anything really well with it. And so then we came out with the original Kristoff, which was the original Criollo blend named after Glenn's son. And then that cigar went crazy. So we stopped selling the Vengeance, or stopped aggressively trying to sell the Vengeance, and started focusing on the Kristoff. And then we realized we had a bunch of Vengeance left over. And the conversation was, do we blow it out? Do we do a crazy deal and sell it to our customers? Do we liquidate it online or something like that, which we really have never really been all about. And what we decided to do was we changed the box, changed the name. We called it the GC Signature. Got a 91 in the next issue of Cigar Aficionado. And it became one of our fastest selling Maduros. So we took the old original blend, which wasn't made in our factory, and we rebranded it, turned it to GC. That's still a production product now. But we always wanted to use that name again as a throwback to the original thing. So this year, with all the FDA crap going on and everything, we figured, why not? We'll bring back a predicate style blend, or name rather. We'll try to come as close to that full-bodied roots as we can with some different tobaccos. And it ended up awesome, man.
It really is fantastic, and that's so. I had not heard the story about the original Vengeance, because that is hilarious. Because I actually do like the GC Signature. I never had the original Vengeance, so I can't. I
think you might know a guy. I think I can. I think I got some old ones with some yellow cello on them right now.
Fantastic, so, man! Fantastic,
yeah.
Wonderful. Sounds good. I'll give it the old college try. See how it smokes. 14 years of age. I mean, that's pretty rare. That's pretty rare anywhere.
Yeah.
So that's hilarious though, about the jump in ranking though on that publication.
Oh yeah. What are you gonna do?
Different years, different smokers, different everything. So that's fantastic. Yep. But something else, I was in the Kristoff booth at the IPCPR show this year, and one of your reps, Robin, hooked me up. She handed me a couple of these, but this is one of the new Kristoff Habano Corona sizes.
Mm-hmm.
Habano's isn't a new blend, but the Corona size, man, it's like you guys read my mind. I am a Corona smoker. I'm a Robusto smoker. I smoke smaller gauges and stuff, but I love Kristoff cigars. Always have. And so absolutely fantastic to bring these out. What was kind of the motivation behind this to go smaller and I guess I don't want to say connoisseur style, because that makes it sound so snooty, but I mean to try to appeal to the people who like smaller gauge cigars. What was the motivation behind that?
So I am a huge Corona guy, to the point that we were making unbanded Coronas from the factory, and they were sending me 3 or 4 bundles every month for me to smoke, and I would take them with me when I went on the road and stuff like that. And eventually, enough people asked, like, "Hey, I didn't know Kristoff made small cigars." And I'm like, "Well, we don't. These are mine, And they'd be like, "Oh, well, can we try them?" Like, "Oh yeah, whatever." And I, buy a few cigars, I'll give you one of these for free. And so eventually I ended up not being able to actually smoke my own cigar that I had brought with me from home. And people, because they were so interested. And I was like, where the hell were you 7 years ago when we were selling these motherfuckers. So I was like, so we couldn't give them away back then. And so I decided to talk to Glenn about it, and I'm like, hey man, let's try to put this together. Let's try to put this Corona deal together. And he's like, whatever you want, my friend, let's do it. And so we were actually in the Dominican Republic, and a lot of the sales reps were there for our Christmas party this year at our factory. And a lot of them got to see Ward, who's my counterpart in the office. He's our operations manager, and he's a home run, man. I mean, this guy makes all of us look good every day. And so he and I were in the factory, and we were sitting in the office of the guy who runs the factory for us, Rolando Villamil, who's been in the cigar business for 50 years. And we're saying like, hey, we need to make these Coronas, and we need to make them at a competitive price point. And Rolando has got what we call the magic calculator, which is every time we ask him about anything, he just types way too many numbers on the calculator and goes, my friend, I can't do it, blah, blah, blah. And so, and so he is the absolute best though. So I said, we need it we need to be able to keystone it under $6. That's what we really, really want. Because I think that's what the market is requiring. And he said, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. And then one of my sales reps, Johnny Vegas, he came up with the idea of doing it in a tray. These little 12-inch retail-friendly trays. We can fit Connecticut, Habano, and Maduro, 3 different SKUs in this tray. And it's and all of a sudden the box cost for each of those comes out. Plus, we were able to bully Rolando a little bit on the prices and negotiate down. And so we ended up coming out with a great product that is designed to be sold sub $6, depending on the tax situation, obviously.
Right.
And they have been doing unbelievable for us.
They really are fantastic, man. I was really excited when I saw these, and when I was handed one of these, and just absolutely incredible. Not for beggars to be choosers here, but if you guys wanted to do this with the Cameroon too, I wouldn't be disappointed.
You are way closer than you think you are. That is probably going to be the next blend that we feature. Not committing to anything. But,
sweet. I'll go out and buy a lottery ticket later
too. Yeah, I like that idea very much, Bear. I'll credit you with the
fantastic
conception of that.
Sweet. I don't have that on my resume yet, so I'll take it. Absolutely. I'll take it to the bank and run with it. Appreciate that. So yeah, well, anytime I see anyone smoking a Cameroon Corona, hopefully one of these days, I'll just be like, that was my idea, right?
Yeah, go ahead. Like I said,
I sure. Totally was me.
I'll give it to you. I'll give all the credit to you.
All right. Well, that's anything else that's going on with Kristoff that you'd like to share with our viewers and listeners?
No, nothing, man. I mean, anybody who's listening that smokes our cigars and supports us and supports the retailers that support us, we appreciate it, and we're going to keep making good product that are quality, that are consistent, that are available, that are actually on the shelf when you want to smoke it. And that's what we've always done, and that's what we're going to keep doing, man. And the company's doing great. We're having a fabulous year this year, so we're blessed, man. We're real happy.
Fantastic. Was it a really good show for you guys this year?
Incredible. We had an incredible TAA. We had an incredible trade show this year, and we're really, really excited to see what the next of it goes.
Thank you. That was something else I was going to ask. I love the decision to bring back the TAA 49. I love that Solomon. That's a tremendous cigar.
Yeah,
absolutely fantastic.
I love that cigar too, and I love that shape. Which it's really hard to. It's a hard shape to roll, I guess, relative to a lot of other things. But we're happy that we were able to bring it back as an ongoing production for TAA. And who knows? Who knows? I'd love to come up with something else for upcoming years. Try to come up with something else cool in those nerdy sizes you bloggers love so much.
I'm not a blogger, but I'm certainly a nerd. So yeah, that will definitely. I mean, I'm all about the Solomon, and but it works for that blend, man. I mean, it's just absolutely fantastic. It is not, because it's not a heavy cigar, but it's got it's enough flavor, and it just works with that large of a size and that unusual shape as well. It's just one of those fantastic cigars. So here's the stupid story. A previous guest on the show, Jim Stanko, who was on my Kentucky Derby show, he's my horse racing expert. He loves that cigar.
Really?
And so yeah, absolutely loves it. Absolutely loves that cigar. And so we've at the tail end of the kind of the season last year, when we were on our last box of TAA 49s, I said, hey man, just to let you know, there's going to be another TAA coming up soon. I said, not to be that guy, but that's our last box, and they're probably not going to make that again. And he's like, oh dude, sign me up. Sounds good. Yeah. And I told him because I knew he loved it, and I didn't want him to miss out on the opportunity, and because I had no idea. And sure enough, the list comes out, and announces the new TAA blends and stuff that are coming out. And I see that the TAA 49 is still there for Kristoff, and I was like, oh man, got some explaining to do to my friend Jim. So I took him in the humidor when we got an order in. And I brought him in the humidor. I said, hey, man, listen, I just want to tell you, I was wrong. But let's focus on the good news here. Your cigar will be in stock. So,
yeah, exactly. You let me know if he has any problems getting them at any point.
Fantastic.
We'll keep coming.
Certainly will. Well, absolutely, Jarrid, thank you so much for your time tonight. Absolutely sensational having you on. Really, really fantastic insight into Kristoff, and what an absolute amazing journey you've had from Target to Bed Bath and Beyond, and now Kristoff Cigars, and making them better and better each and every quarter. So that's really fantastic. I really, really appreciate your time. Really appreciate you being on. Everyone that tuned in, really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. It was absolutely my pleasure to host this evening and have a terrific guest in Mr. Jarrid Trudeau of Kristoff Cigars. Be sure to check out all Kristoff products at your local tobacconist. Smoke them well, and smoke them often. And this was our 46th take. Yep, we did 40. We've done 46 of these, as hard as it is to believe. And I really appreciate everyone's tuning in, liking, sharing, commenting, all the love that you guys have given us. Check out a list for upcoming guests. We've got some fantastic shows, and they are going to have to be fantastic if they want to match how great this one was tonight. So we really appreciate everyone that tuned in. We really appreciate Jarrid as well. I was live from the Casa Cuevas studios of Euless, Texas. As always, I'm Bear Duplessis, and we'll see you next time.